Hello and welcome to the Real Sewing Box. Today we're going to be making the Adelaide long sleeve top, and let's get right into it. I'm really excited with this one because there's so many ways you can wear it and style it, and it's just a very easy make, which is super fun to do. So this is the front and back. So you're going to want to bring the right sides facing towards each other and align the shoulders at the top of the piece. Once you have those together, just pin them together and sew along the top edges. Once you've got that all sewn up, we're going to go to the sleeves. You're going to open up so that the right side is facing down. Up. And we're going to start with the sleeves. So when the sleeves are going to line up, you want to make sure that they line up on the right side of the piece. So right side's facing the right side. You're going to line up the middle of the sleeve to the middle of the seam that we just made on the shoulder. And then you're going to pin it out on the sides, on the left and right sides, and we're just going to sew that down. Since there's no super defined shape on the shoulder and armpit area, it's just flat. So we're just going to sew flat along the edge, and then once we get to the next step, we'll sew the bottom stitch of the arm. So making sure you're doing that for both sides. I still have chalk marks on my piece. Making sure that the middle is lined up, and then bringing to the edge the rest of the piece. And sewing along those two edges. Once you have that, we're going to have the piece inside out at this point, and you're just going to lay it flat so that you can see the whole piece, and we're going to line up the armhole from the wrist all the way down to the bottom of the hips. So all the way under the arm, all the way down the side. And you're just going to pin that up all the way down, making sure that the armpit seam matches up. This is where I do that here. And then I go back and make sure that the sleeve here is all properly pinned, and then I go down the side of the shirt. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I just flipped it over so that when I put my pins in, it would be easier to sew. I start here with the armpit and just lining up the sleeves of the seams of the sleeve. And then I go back to the bottom and the top and make sure that everything's aligned there as well. And once we have that, we go ahead and sew both those sides. All in one go, you can do this, and then the next piece is going to be putting the cuffs on the shirt. So we're going to be starting by making the cuff and then attaching the cuff to the shirt. So this way we're going to be folding And so this is going to be the inside out version. So you're folding the cuff inside out so that when we flip it back, it'll be the right side. So now that we have that, we're going to be flipping it to the right side, but only halfway. So I'm sorry this is off camera, but it's just halfway, and then once you get that, you can put it on your wrist and make sure that it fits. And once you get super excited about that, you can take it off and make sure that the edges align. That's what I'm doing there. So you don't want it to be twisted on the inside of your cuff, because then you won't be fully able to untwist it. So it's better to just make sure that it's untwisted now. Now what we're going to be doing is just sewing a straight stitch all along the bottom of the sleeve and then pulling on one of those stitches. So you're not going to do a back stitch when you do this one. You're just going to go straight all the way around. And then once you do that, you just pull one of the threads and slowly make sure your thread doesn't break throughout this process, but just slowly bring that thread out, and then you're going to be able to shimmy it along kind of like a curtain all the way along your thread, so that once you get to your desired hole size, then you can put your cuff on it. This makes it super easy to make sure that the ruffle goes really nicely on the sleeve. And then I did it on the other side as well. And I just adjusted along however much I thought it would kind of go. It doesn't have to be exact here, because when we go ahead and sew, it's going to ruffle as well anyways. So we're going to pin the cuff to the sleeve now. So both pieces are right side out, and we're going to line up the seams here. So once we line those up, we can just go ahead and pin them all the way around. So I started with the seam of the sleeve and the seam of the cuff, just making sure they line up, and then I put the opposite pin in and went around and just make sure that it was kind of even all the way through the inside there. Added a couple pins where necessary, and I'm going to sew around this one and do that on the other side as well. The same thing on the other side. And now that you see that the cuff is inside out, we're just going to flip it out and you have a beautiful sleeve. This was so exciting for me because I haven't really done ruffle sleeves before, so this is super exciting how it turned out, and it fits really nicely. So now that we have that on both sides, one sleeve here, and one on the other side. Yay! Now we're going to go ahead and do the collar. So I do all my collars like this. I flip it right side out and flatten it along the long edge, and then I will take the middle of the collar and put it on one side of the neck, because I want the seam to be on the one of the side seams. I used to put it at the back. I just don't find it looks that nice. You can do it there so you know which piece is front and back, but I like to have it on one of my sides, usually my left side. So I'll start with the middle of the collar on the right side, and then I'll go along and pin everything so that it matches all the way up to the other side. And once I pin all that and get to the other side, I make sure that the collar is just a smidge smaller than the actual neck hole, because that way it'll lay flat nicely. And then we're gonna sew the end of the collar together first, and then we're gonna sew all the way around the collar piece. So this is that little piece first. We're going to stitch that together once we have the right size. So you can trim it down here if you need, and then you're going to sew it all together here. So once you have that, you have a finished collar. And now for the bottom, what I did, I double hemmed it. So I folded it twice and hemmed it all the way around. This is the part where it gets exciting for finishings and stylings. You can keep it the length that it is at right now. It's pretty long. Or what you can do is you can cut it to your hip length or maybe even a crop length if you like that, and then hem it there as well. You can also play with it and tie a knot in it or tuck it into your pants for a really cute style. Also, you can tuck the whole thing in, like you can do a front tuck with just one tuck, or you can do the whole tuck, and then it gives like a double poofy effect with your sleeves and the bottom of the shirt as well, which is super cute, and I really like that. And then here you have the finished piece. You can also go ahead and add the pocket. I did not show that on the video, but it's just simple. It's a top stitch over the whole pocket. I would double hem the pocket first and then just top stitch on top. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.